Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi, wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin, amma ba'd, fa'a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. My respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we will have the initial discussion about Zakat, but we also plan to have a Zakat seminar, maybe soon after Ramadan, for 3 or 4 hours, because the discussion is so long and so comprehensive that it is difficult to basically summarize it with the next 45 minutes. And today also, with the basic introduction, I would like to give the opportunity to you to have questions, because many of you calculate your zakat during the month of Ramadan. So I do not want to go into theoretical discussions. I would like to have the practical discussion. And actually, I have already made a deal with some of them 5% and maybe with them for 10%. So if you give zakat, inshallah, I will allow you to give it to the masjid too today. So let's make a commission, and then inshallah, with the grace of Allah, with some of the activities of the masjid, zakat will be allowed. My respected brothers, okay, somebody's phone was found in the bathroom. Is that the zakat? Maybe that can be counted as bathroom zakat. We can sell it and make the payment for. If anybody is interested in this phone, please contact me. My respected brothers and sisters, the word zakat is from zaka yazki, from purification, from growth, what we call namu or parwarish. And actually, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, khuz bin amwalihim sadaqa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam to take from their money, from their property, sadaqah. تُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا وَصَلِّ عَلَيْهِمْ إِنَّ صَلَاتَكَ سَكَنٌ لَهُمْ. That you purify them. And then you also pray for them, because your prayer is a source of security for them. So from the very beginning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not using it as a tax, but as a source of purification, as a source of your money, your prosperity, your security. And it is clear that when you give something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does not take it for Himself, He uses it for the other human beings, but it is upon Himself that He has taken the responsibility to reward you for that. And the concept of zakat was present in the previous generations or nations also. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala required the same from the ummah of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salatu wassalam and the ummah of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salatu wassalam. But they went into different kinds of tangents. For example, if you look at the Old Testament, it requires 10% of your income. This is called the share of Lord, share of God. Same thing happens in the New Testament, that the 10% of your actual income, and they require that you pay it before you spend it upon your family. That's where, if you go to some of the churches or some of the temples, they have got this list. On the day of service or on the day of Eid, they would say that there's no place for the thieves of God here. They check it. So if anybody pays 10%, will be allowed to participate in Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah or Christmas or some of those activities. But Islam brought it to the middle way where it was supposed to be. So what is 2.5% of your actual annual saving? What does that mean? That after taking care of your basic necessities, from clothing, from lodging, from transportation, from even the education of your children. Whatever is the basic necessity of your life, you take care of it. Whatever is left after that, and that money or that saving stays with you for the entire year. This is what is called hawlan al-hawl. That on your saving, an entire year has passed. So at the end of that year, you pay 2.5% of that saving. Now, here I really want to make sure that all of us we understand that the needs of a family which is bigger than other family, or their status is higher than other, is going to be different than the family whose living conditions or earning or the settings are different. So therefore, somebody may be paying $10,000 mortgage and the other may be paying $2,000 mortgage. So whatever is his or her real mortgage will be considered as something which is needed. Same thing happens. Somebody's child may be in a public school and the others has got private school. So that private tuition is going to be excluded from what? From the savings. So therefore, conditions are different, but the concept is same. So after taking care of your housing, your clothing, your food, your transportation, your mortgages, or whatever you call it, whatever is left with you and that stays with you for hawlan al-hawl, for a whole year, at the end of that year, 2.5% of that would be given to the poor and the needy, as the Quran has categorized them into 8 main categories. Let me get to some of the practical issues. For example, if you are earning, let me say there are 4 different kinds of earning, you can say. Personal, from business, stocks and all of those kind of stuff, and sometimes the minerals. And there are cattle, but most of the time they are not relevant to us until somebody has got the, mashallah, farm or somebody. And you can contact me if you've got a farm, but most of the time those issues are not relevant to us. So let me start from the nisab. Nisab is fixed by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What is the nisab? 3 ounces of gold and 21 ounces of silver. 3 ounces of gold are almost 85 grams, and 21 ounces are about 612 grams of silver. Now, at the time of Rasulullah sallam, the gold and the silver were kind of equal in price. So let's take the example that right now, the 3 ounces or 85 grams of gold are right now, I'm talking about March of 2024, about $6,000. Now, the 21 ounces of silver are about what, $433. So there are some scholars, they would say that silver and gold both were established by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the nisab. So we should go to the lower number. So they would say that the nisab is, if somebody possesses right now $433, then this person is what? Supposed to give zakat. And the others say that gold is a better standard because it is more stable than silver. So we should have the nisab at 6,000, but the others say let's have something average. So they are suggesting that if anybody has got $4,000 in saving, then that is the nisab. And I go with the opinion of the scholars who talk about the average. Because if you start from 433, then even those people who cannot afford to pay are supposed to pay the zakat. So therefore, I would suggest that right now, if somebody has got a saving of $4,000 and more, and that $4,000 remain with him or her throughout the year, then that person is supposed to pay the zakat. Now, one question should be clear in the mind of everybody, that if you have got 4,000, then whatever is your saving, you are supposed to pay the zakat on it. It's not that you exclude those 4,000 and basically pay the zakat for the rest of the amount. Say for example, 4,000 is the threshold. If you have got 75,000, 100,000, 200,000, so you will pay the zakat on 200,000 or 75,000. So after the basic nisab, whatever is with you and that stays with you for the rest of the year, you have to pay the zakat. Now sometimes the question comes, my salary is coming, and at the end of the year, let's say I have got 100,000. But some of that have come in the last 3 months or 4 months. So Imam Abu Hanifa and the rest of them, what they say, Imam Abu Hanifa says that whatever has stayed with you for most of the year is what? 9 months. Whatever has stayed with you for 9 months, you pay the zakat on it. But say for example, within 9 months you had 90,000 and the rest of the 10 came within last. So if you want to share with Allah the bounty of 100, it's good for you. Otherwise, pay it on 90,000. Whatever has been there within the majority time. Am I clear? I'm just trying to make things very simple for you. If you want me to calculate the goats and the cows and the buffaloes, I can do it. But you have to show me who owns it here. Otherwise, I'll just go to the simple stuff. Second issue is when it comes to wealth. Now, there are different kinds of wealth. I'll just make it easy for those people who have asked the question about businesses. So suppose somebody has got a convenience store. Now, that convenience store, if this is the only source of your income, what you do, you basically look at the inventory, you look at the expenses, you look at the salaries of the employees, you take care of all the necessities, all the required bills of that, and whatever is your net profit at the end of the year, you pay the zakat on it. Some of the scholars, they also say that in addition to that profit, you look at the inventory or the market value of the business and you pay the zakat on it. I am of the opinion, like some of the other scholars, that it will be too much. It's a small business, so if the person has to give on the inventory or the market value, just take the example that I purchased a house, for example, or an apartment. Now that house or apartment might be what? $250,000 or worth $300,000. But now I rented this apartment to somebody. Now for that year, that apartment is being used by that person and not by me. For that year, what I am getting is what? The rent amount. So the zakat should be on that rent amount and not the whole amount of 250 or 300, because that is being used throughout the year by somebody else, and what I am getting is the profit from that rent. Now even within that rent amount, you have to deduct all of the expenses. For example, for maintenance, there are some other fees. So whatever is your net profit that year from that property, you pay the zakat on it. So in the same fashion, if a person is doing the business, whether furniture store, whatever business you have got, you take care of all the bills. You take care of everything, and whatever is your net profit, for that year you pay the zakat on it. Because if you are going to be paying the zakat on market value or on the inventory, it will be too much. But suppose if you sell that business, for example, you sold it for $10 million. Now when you sell it, you have to pay the zakat on 10 million. Am I clear? But when you are using it, you use it only for that year's income or net profit. Sometimes people ask the questions about properties. I'm just going from one place to the other place. For example, somebody purchased a land and he wants to build a house on it. Now land is in a very, very expensive area. For example, it's worth $500,000. Say for example. So there should be zakat on 500,000. But now his intention is to build the house. He is not living there yet. He is living in a small house but wants to build the house on that. There should not be no zakat on it because that is for the house. Am I clear? But if somebody has kept it for business, now the intention is not living there. The intention is I will make some money. There are two possibilities. One possibility is, say for example, it is worth $250,000. Now those $250,000 are not in circulation. They are being kept over there. जैसे कहते हैं ना बांध के रखा हुआ है. So Islamically you are supposed to pay the zakat on it. But there is one problem. Sometimes the person has got cash flow and the person does not have a cash flow. So how is he going to pay the zakat if he does not have the cash? So therefore, some of the scholars say, no, you have to pay the zakat because you are keeping 250,000 out of circulation. But the others say, if you do not have the money right now, when you sell it, pay the zakat on the entire amount of what? The selling price. In the same fashion, the business issues. And then basically I would like to say a few more words about, say for example, gold. Some of you have sent so many questions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. MashaAllah, the IT team, Jazakumullahu khairan, where are you guys? They have established a corner for me, Dr. Shah's corner. So you can send the email or questions, and MashaAllah, so many questions came. So that's where I decided that I will have a seminar because to answer all of those questions is impossible in this small setting. I was approached by one of the brothers when I was coming out of the office that what about the gold? My wife is asking the question that I use the gold quite often and it's hefty amount. Now I use it on the day of Eid, I use it for functions, so am I supposed to pay the zakat on it or not? The rule is there is no zakat on the gold which you put on very often. Usually every day. The ring, for example, churiyan jisko kehte hain, necklace, whatever you say it. Whatever you use it on daily basis, you can exclude it. But those things which you use it only during the functions, that is not part of your necessity. That is what? Decoration. That is ornaments. That is something beyond your need. Zakat should be given on that one. Now here, subhanallah, sometimes you have to explain these things because nowadays on internet, Sheikh Google and Sheikha Google, they have got so many opinions that everybody is mufti in himself. And actually because of this information, we have got only one mufti, you might have got 10 mufti in the house. Because everybody can just go on the, say for example, Google and find the opinion. So I remember somebody brought me the opinion of Sheikh Ibn Baz and Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen from Saudi Arabia, from Kuwait, that there's no zakat on, say for example, the, most of those luxury kind of, say for diamonds, rubies, you name it. I mean, you know it more than me. Now, some of those minerals are so expensive. Now, they say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said there is zakat on gold, there is zakat on silver. He did not put it on any of the other minerals. So mashallah, what happens? Some of these rich guys, they invest in those high value minerals, or say for example diamonds and rubies, just before the end of the year. $10 million, $1 billion, they buy it. Now there's no zakat on it, but that 10 billion or 1 million or 5 million is spent, and after that they sell it, they make money. So this way they do not pay zakat. For God's sake, if you look at the real philosophy of zakat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كَيْ لَا يَكُونَ دُولَةً بَيْنَ الْأَغْنِيَاءِ مِنْكُمْ, so that the money does not become in the hands of few. It must be circulated. So when we try to play these kind of games with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows that those 5 millions were not part of your need. So therefore, whatever is beyond your need, and wherever you invested in valuable luxuries or in possessions, wherever you put it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has got the share on it. So I would say, let's not play with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wherever your money is. Now when it comes to stocks, I'll make it simple, and then if you have got more question, you can ask me. In these stocks, what you know, you've got the market value. At that time when you are calculating zakat, what is the market value of your stock? That is what? The nisab-able or zakat-able amount. It fluctuates a lot. So what happens is that you can do the average. For example, the stock was $90 and right now it is $60. But it went to 180 sometime, and then, so just put the average. Or the best thing is that whatever is its value right now, you have got two options. One option is that the fluctuation took place throughout the year. So you look at the average of that fluctuation. Or the second thing is that whatever it is worth right now, remember, it's not a kind of fine upon you. You are investing that zakat with your Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Give him more for investment, because that is going to be your real investment. Don't play games with him. If you have to give him a little bit more, he will give you more. So with this sense, do not, astaghfirullah, go with those kind of gimmicks. Sometime, those people who are aware of taxes, you know how hard is IRS and how careful we are. I know one of the friends, sometimes we go together to our CPA, and he says, put few thousand more. I don't want them to come and visit me. This is the situation or our attitude with IRS. Imagine with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It should not be out of fear, it should be out of what? Love. So the basic issue of stock is what? Simple. You calculate your worth and then put some extra for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or put the average. Whatever is convenient for you, you can do it. Final word about 401k. I'm sure you must have read our discussion in the Fiqh Council, and I'm not sure you have read my difference of opinion, so I can give you that detail and then you can decide whatever way. 401k is something, and I'm talking about all of the retirement. You can basically, whatever I say about 401k, you can use it for all the retirement funds. 401k is your savings. Now imagine some people have got 3 million saving, some of them have got $500,000, some of them have 100,000, and the industry is into trillions of dollars. If people do not pay zakat on that trillion, you can imagine that trillion is out of circulation. So this is a major issue. But the other issue is that people do not have the complete possession of their account. Right now, say for example, somebody has got 80,000 in 401k. If that person goes and wants to take it, he has to pay the taxes, he has to pay the penalties, and then maybe 50,000 or 40,000, whatever is. Now, if a person does not want to go through these kind of fine and penalty, am I clear? Then he may not have the cash flow at home to pay the zakat for that 80,000. So this is a dilemma. We discussed it a great deal in the Fiqh Council. Finally, the majority agreed that if you keep that $1 trillion out of the industry, the poor in Gaza, the poor, say for example, everywhere, they cannot wait. So we have to give some kind of fatwa so that whosoever can afford should give the money out. So now this is the fatwa of the Fiqh Council, that even though it is not your complete possession, but you are in complete ownership of a portion of it. Let's say you have got 401k, $100,000. So you want to take it right now, so they will charge you, let's say, 15,000 taxes, 15,000 penalty, so 70,000 is yours. So if you want to take 70, so instead of paying the zakat on 100,000, pay the zakat on 70,000. If you have got the cash flow. But sometimes some people have got no money. They cannot afford to make the payment for 70,000. So the fatwa was, do whatever you can, keep it in your record, and when you get the money, the total 70, deduce this one. I was of the opinion that many of the people in the community may not have the cash flow to make the payment on whatever they completely own in the 401k. So, like the land which was kept, so whenever they get the possession of the amount at 65 or 70, they should pay the zakat on the entire amount one time. Am I clear? Now they've got the money. So now they can pay on 100,000 or 70, and every year, whatever they deduct from there, they should pay the zakat on it. You understand my point? But again, majority said, let's give the community opportunity so they can donate whatever in zakat right now, and then if they cannot, then they can follow the other fatwa. So in most of these situations, the bottom line is there are poor and needy, and they are in need right now. If somehow you can expedite the help right now, this is priority number one. But not at the expense of your own family and your own risks. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want to increase the number of poor. When you are trying to help them and you become poor by yourself, you don't have $70,000 zakat, and you borrow, and so basically what is the philosophy? The philosophy is you stay stable, you remain secure, and you help others, but not at the cost of your own security. Am I clear? So find it out, and then inshallah you make the decision. And one final comment, I'm going to make it very simple. Who can receive zakat? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decided in the Quran, إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ لِلْفُقَرَاءِ وَالْمَسَاكِينَ وَالْعَامِلِينَ عَلَيْهَا وَالْمُؤَلَّفَةِ قُلُوبُهُمْ وَفِي الرِّقَابِ وَالْغَارِمِينَ وَفِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ. 8 categories are established by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. First is al-fuqara, faqir. Now I can give you whole seminar about this one ayah. So you will be confused if I give you details of that, because I don't want to give so many details. I want you to have question and answer. But with all honesty, there is so much difference of opinion among the scholars on this issue. Even if you want to see the wrestling match between me and Mufti Rabbani, I can start it right now. Because the issue of tamkeen, for example, in, say for example, Hanafi school and the other school will be very different. So therefore, I don't want to throw those things and confuse you. I'll say few words to say, make it simple. You can ask more questions, but come back to, say for example, the seminar, and we can go through the details. Now the faqir is from faqr, poverty. Now, in every society, faqir is going to be different. For example, back home, a faqir is who has got no clothes, who has got no food. Here in America, nobody will die without food because they have got food stamps. Clothes, basically, this is where you have to see the difference between this system and the other system, that this system has at least taken care of the basic necessities through various kinds of mechanisms. So faqir back home is going to be very different than the faqir over here. So when you read our scholars who have talked about the faqir over there and the conditions, and you say Imam Abu Hanifa says this is faqir, or Jalalain says this is faqir, You will not find that fakir in America. So the fakir of America is going to be based upon the cultural and social settings of this society. Same thing happened with miskin. Miskin is from sakan, somebody who does not have a place to live. Am I clear? Now here a person is living in the apartment but does not own a house. Somebody may be living in a kind of house but wants to buy a bigger house. So are we going to consider him miskin? But honestly, from American perspective, if a person has got 5 children and people are not giving him apartment because it is 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom, that is a miskin. I have seen so many brothers, they've got 8 children and nobody wants to give them apartment. So in this situation, you look at these, subhanallah, refugees come and some of them have got 5 children, 6 children, and it is so difficult for them after 6 months, because 6 months they get the support from the state or the government, and after that. So in that situation, sometimes we used to give zakat, and the person is coming on a nice car. So the committee would say, Dr. Shah, his car is better than me. Can I take zakat? What does he mean is that we are giving zakat to this car, but sometimes the guy polishes his car, he has got the time, he has got no job, so he keeps on working on his car, but the engine is so bad. You cannot just look at these kind of situations, you look at the type of, because you are there to take care of the need of the other people. So what I'm trying to say is the fakir and miskin, don't bring me the definitions and the conditions from Pakistan or India or Bangladesh or those fatwas and say, our ulama said that you cannot give zakat to these people. No, their situation is different and situation here is what? Different. And here I want to say one thing. Mu'allafatil qulub. Those people whose hearts you are supposed to win. The Prophet ﷺ would give a zakat to avoid people's evil. Abu Sufyan, Amr bin As, these are rich people. They are the enemies of Islam. Now Rasulullah ﷺ is giving them from zakat hefty amount because he knows that they are spending so much money and animosity to harm Islam. If I can shut their mouth up by means of few, this is better for the community. Or somebody is interested in Islam, you are trying to win their heart, giving them gift, giving them zakat, new Muslims, non-Muslims. We are discussing in the Fiqh Council right now, after this Gaza issue, yarhamukallah, whether the zakat money can be given for lobbying, for activism, for the long-term programs of Umatic. No, we are doing your job. That's where I told you, give me 5%, I'll give the fatwa. So basically, look at how much time and effort was spent, and even then, there's not much of a difference. Now remember, those lives are far more important than the life of a miskin or a fakir, because they are living under conditions which is life and death. So what are you going to prefer? One is that basically you give the miskin when he is hungry. And second is you protect him from becoming a miskin. Am I clear? So therefore, I have been pushing, and now I think most of the colleagues are coming along after seeing all of these issues, that we should allow zakat for lobbying here in America. We should allow zakat for school building. We should allow zakat for activism. Now imagine how much money was spent upon these rallies, upon all of these expenses. If people have paid zakat already and they cannot pay zakat for these things, and they are paying 33% taxes to Uncle Sam, 6% to the state, and then the city, poor guys will be tomorrow, inshallah, they will be receiving zakat by themselves. So therefore, if you allow the zakat to be used for these activism, it is going to do the work of Ummah. But here we need a lot of what? Qualifications. Because with all honesty, we have noticed that sometimes zakat is abused. And I am going to be very blunt because we sit on so many boards in the administrative costs, in the program expenses. Out of $1 which you send for the yatim, 60 to 70% is spent on administrative costs and 25 cents go to the yatim. So this is another extreme. I'm not going to open that, can of worm. But it needs a lot of qualifications. So we have put some pressure upon some of the big organizations. And alhamdulillah, Islamic Relief, they used to spend $40 million on zakat. We said, for God's sake, show us where you spend. And alhamdulillah, they opened their book. We told them, stop this one, do this one, such and such, me and Dr. Muzammil Siddiqui. So now, alhamdulillah, that 40 million goes according to what we have agreed upon zakat policy for it. So we request the other organization also to do the same thing. So sometimes you see a lot of abuse of zakat also. People take zakat for activism, for those things, and they abuse it. So therefore, we are still working on some of those qualifications, which we will say. But in my opinion, because the fatwa has not come yet, I am, inshallah, 110% sure the fatwa is going to come the way I'm telling you. But this is my personal opinion. Fatwa won't come, then it will become the fatwa of the Fiqh Council. I truly believe you can spend the zakat on schools, Islamic schools. Because if these children do not have Islam, imagine, we are worried about their food, we are worried about their clothing, what about their faith? Here we do not have the capacity to save the iman of our children and their identity, and back home they allow for madrasas. All of the madrasas are what? Taking zakat. They are memorizing Quran. What are they doing? Islamic identity, Islamic education. Here our Islamic education is what? Done through Islamic school. So especially the inner city schools, they do not have the capacity. Kids are on drugs. So building those schools, clinics, free clinics. Alhamdulillah, we started the free clinic with zakat money. Now it is a big hospital. I'm not sure about your hospital or whatever. Wallah, you go to Milwaukee, you cannot differentiate between a professional hospital and that hospital. So something, and also I am going to be very blunt, and here if Mufti Sahib disagree with me, mashallah, he has got the right to disagree. Now our Hanafis, they focus a lot upon tamkeen, that you have to give your zakat to a person, a poor, a miskeen, a new Muslim, somebody like that. But then Sheikh al-Qardawi, Sheikh, say for example, Zarqa, all of my teachers, we have been discussing it for the last at least 40 years. The word fi sabilillah. The word fi sabilillah, spending in the way of Allah, is a very broad one. Our ulama at that time said fi sabilillah means jihad fi sabilillah. Then when military goes to fight others, this is jihad. You don't have that. What is your jihad? Your jihad is, wallahi, these masajid. In this community or in any community, if there's no masjid, tell me, where are they going to have Islamic identity? Where are children going to come? So in my personal opinion, if a community does not have money to establish the masjid, even though ulama are very much against it, that the building of the masjid should never be done through zakat, because that is the house of Allah. You don't want to give Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala your leftover. Am I clear? But remember, my fatwa is, if the community does not have the money or the capacity and have got no resources, they can give their zakat to build the masjid, because that is number one priority. If there's no masjid, there's no Islamic community. But those who have got the capacity do not spend the zakat money upon building the masjid, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Anfiqu min tayyibati ma kasabtu. When it comes to me, spend with me the best of what you have got, because I deserve the best. don't give me your leftover. So do not spend your zakat money upon building the masjid. But my brothers and sisters, remember at the time of Sayyidina Umar, Sayyidina Abu Bakr fought those people who did not give the zakat to the state. But what was the responsibility of the state? To build the masjids. To take care of what? Quran schools, orphanage. Everything was the responsibility of state. Even the hospitals were the responsibility of the state. From that zakat money. Here, zakat money is not coming to the state. Am I clear? So now the Muslim infrastructure, all of those things must be allowed from zakat. So non-Muslim program, all of the non-Muslim program are zakatable. All of the educational program, if you give the zakat to the madrasas and they do education, why can't we use the same kind of zakat money to improve our educational program? Same thing when it comes to utilities. Same thing comes to basically hiring youth director, such director. Because imagine, most of the masjid do not have youth directors. And our youth are going around all over. And they do not have the capacity to have even social worker. Now, those miskin and fakir, they need social worker. So I am of the opinion that you can use zakat on social worker, youth director, non-Muslims program, new Muslim program, all the projects, electricity, water bill, because you do not have a state here. And 10 to 20% of people are carrying the burden of what? The whole masjid. How much you want them to burden? Because these miskin are putting what? Hundreds and thousands and millions. So, and the others are afraid that I cannot afford more than zakat. So therefore, zakat should be allowed. So I am of the opinion, and alhamdulillah I can tell you, majority of the scholars, other than some of the very traditional ones, are coming to the conclusion that if you really want to make your community stable and prosperous, you need to utilize the zakat, say for example, because honestly, 33% Uncle Sam takes it without our permission. State takes 6%. Some of the cities take such and such. Then you have got family responsibilities. Then you have masjid responsibilities. So after you do all of that, 50% of your income is gone. Am I clear? And then you ask them to pay more for masjid, for this program, for that program, and Allah has given them the heart, they keep on giving you. But honestly, if we allow the zakat to be utilized for these reasons, it will what? It will diminish the burden upon them. So I think the community at large should take the responsibility of the ummah, and this is where it is permitted. Now, the final comment about Uncle Sam. Some people, they say, at the time of Sahaba, the state will take the zakat and they were responsible for all of what? Infrastructure. Now Uncle Sam takes 33% and they are responsible for all of infrastructure. So once I pay taxes, there's no need for me to pay zakat. Am I clear? I'm sure you must have heard that discussion. I just want to summarize it. I agree with you that the federal government is doing most of what the Islamic State is required to do. Food stamps, infrastructures, schools, but they are also doing something where zakat is not allowed. These billions of dollars are being sent to Gaza to kill our brothers and sisters. Other billions are spent on CIA, FBI, all of those kind of stuff, and it is haram to use zakat on those. So that's where you cannot count the taxes given to Uncle Sam as your zakat. Am I clear? So just fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what they say, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and give to Allah what belongs to Allah. So we are in that situation. So the bottom line is taxes cannot be counted as zakat. So I'll stop here right now. I have just highlighted few areas, but I'm sure you have got plenty of questions, so please feel free to ask the questions. Yes, Raksa, please.
If I have a land 10 years and it is worth quite a bit, do I wait until I sell it and give it just for that year? Or I have to calculate every year I didn't give it, add it up, approximate value each year, keep it aside and then pay it when I sell it?
If you have got the capacity right now, you calculate every, okay. The question is that if somebody has got quite a bit of land, and that land is being kept for 10 years, should he give the zakat when he sells the land, or should he pay the zakat right now, or should he calculate every year and say, for example, when he sells, pay it for every year? If you have got the capacity, zakat should be paid right now, because that miskin is hungry, that fakir is hungry. If you have got the capacity, calculate the amount right now and give the zakat. If you do not have the capacity, calculate it for every year. And when you sell it, give it. That is ideal. But the fatwa, remember, there is what is taqwa and there is fatwa. Taqwa is ideal. Fatwa is you are crossing, you are almost at the boundary, red line. So the fatwa could be that you did not have the money right now. You did not have the capacity to give it right now. Once you sell, once you give the amount, the total amount, you give the zakat on it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will purify it. So it all depends upon your capacity. The best thing is if you have got the capacity right now, keep on giving it right now. Otherwise, calculate it for every year. And if you have got the capacity to give it, but if you do not have any of those capacities, when you sell it, just give the zakat on the entire amount. Ji.
Assalamu Alaikum. Very nice khutbah. Thank you very much for that. Can you hear me? Okay.
No, yeah.
Okay, I'll speak up. How do you incorporate, like loans that you have, mortgage or credit card, or you have to subtract from all the?
Sure. Very good question. The question is, for example, I've got 100,000, but I've got mortgage, I've got loans, I've got, say, for example, credit card bills. Whatever you own, your mortgage of that year, not 30 year. The mortgage of that year you can subtract. All of your that year due debt, whatever you think that you are supposed to pay for that year, you subtract. So whatever is needed for that year, you basically take it away, and whatever is left is your amount, and that is zakat. Now sometimes I have to make sure that everybody understand. I knew a friend who had taken $54,000 debt when he was getting ready for marriage. Now, he was under the impression that this $54,000 is my debt. So whatever his earning was or his saving, he will say 54. And when I came to know, I explained to him, you cannot just keep on every year 54. You have to make a kind of intention what you intend to pay during this year, or whatever you have paid during this year. This is your subtraction, not the 54,000. Just the example. Yes. Now, Majid Saab, and then I'll come to you. Then I'll come to you, inshallah. Is it engineering question or zakat? Sure. I am
It
of
says
the
social
opinion
light.
that
And
just the
it's on,
building
the light
of
is
the
on, it's
masjid
green.
is out of
And when
that
I tap
capital,
on it, there's no song.
but everything else, school, gymnasium, library, all of that is zakatable. Just the place of masjid, because that is the house of Allah, you should give the best of what that building where the sajda is done, that the main masjid is not, but everything else in an Islamic center can be zakatable, but with qualifications. Am I clear? Sometimes, and I'm going to be very blunt, we saw that people were throwing lavish galas and dinners in the name of attracting the policymakers or inviting the congressmen and women and throwing lavish dinners and traveling, and all of that was being paid from zakat. So remember, zakat cannot be used for such kind of lavish, luxurious. That's where I'm saying qualification. But if you have to invite a congressman because you are not getting even the license for the masjid, you can have the dinner, and that is zakatable because that is a need, but the others are going to be lavish spending. But when it comes to the utilities, I mean, look at what happens back home. People used to give their zakat to have a trust fund, waqf. From that waqf, the money will come and it takes care of the imam's salary, the masjid expenses, everything. So that waqf, you can establish it with zakat. Now, mashallah, you've got charitable foundation, maybe I think IAGD Foundation. Wallahi, this is the best way. You start looking for long-term project. Your 401k, your wills, put it over there so that the masajid, the schools, they become self-sufficient. This is the way the trust used to work. So honestly, with the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam here, I mean, let me tell you one thing. The American Muslim community is the richest community in the world, other than those rich princes. If you put the entire possession of the Muslim world, other than the princes, together, the Muslim community of North America has got more money than the entire Ummah. There's $1 trillion zakat every year if Muslims pay out of 200 million people. And there's estimation that between 50 to 70 billion really come. But the cost is 1 trillion if you look at the position of most of the Ummah. And imagine the countries like Pakistan, their annual budget is 87 billion. Some of the countries have got 60 billion. So if this Ummah organizes the zakat properly and does not waste it, and there's a central body, out of that 1 trillion, let's say, one time they say, we will take care of the budget of Pakistan and agree with the government, put so many hospitals, such and such, and no wastage. In 1 year, you can take care of one country. Next year, next country. Wallahi, within 20 years, there will be no poor Muslim living in the world if this is properly taken care of. The problem is, most of the Muslims either do not give or they give Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leftover. And those who give, they do not basically maintain it properly. They give it to what? Any organization, because they want to get rid of their responsibility. And there's no accountability. Most of these funds are being wasted. So if we somehow properly, if each community starts taking care of its zakat and say, we are going to make our community self-sufficient, and remember, Gaza is your priority number one because they are being murdered. But after that, what is your priority? Your families? If you can take care of your families back home, rest of that should be spent on your community. If each community can become self-sufficient, wallahi, you can imagine how much impact we can have in this country. And especially, I will request you one thing. Well, your zakat should be spent upon converting non-Muslim or bringing them close to Islam. Imagine all of this Islamophobia, all of this hatred. If you can decrease some of that from here, if that fever goes away, there will be less killing back home. Am I clear? So for God's sake, look at, you are sitting in the house of Firaun, you are the Musa, and you are supposed to make a difference. We keep on sending it, and I can tell you, I mean, I have been involved in this industry from the past for 35 years, and I can tell you examples after examples. We have been working like post offices, collect the money from here, send it back home. Have we taken care of the poverty? Have we established something? Yeah, there is something going on, but this money could have alleviated poverty from our Islamic countries, but because there's mismanagement. So let's take charge of our resources and become the examples of self-sufficiency, and wallahi, everybody else will follow it. I'm sorry, I mean, sometimes I go far ahead of you. So, but because of those 35 years of experience and fighting, so sometimes I become emotional and say things which is not supposed to be said even in the public.
Just one additional question.
Okay. Now, I promise you that I will, because there were so many questions. When I looked at them, I said, even just to read them, it will take me 3 days.
Yeah.
So inshallah, that's where we will put it in the seminar. I apologize to those who sent the question ahead of time, and I cannot answer them right now, but inshallah, we will include them, and I will also answer them on my web page after Ramadan, not during Ramadan. So you will have these answers so that anybody wants to see it, they can see it, mashallah. Ramadan is very tough.
So spending of zakat or giving zakat to food banks, which are really managed, which are they're secular, and they would obviously feed Muslims and non-Muslims. They don't ask questions. So we have Gleaners Community Food Bank here. We have Forgotten Harvest. These are huge food bank programs, well known throughout the metro area, and they feed the hungry. What is your opinion about giving zakat to them?
Inshallah, you will be receiving a fatwa pretty soon from Fiqh Council that zakat can be given to the non-Muslims.
Thank you.
I mean, we are having this discussion, and alhamdulillah, you will have that fatwa maybe in the next meeting of the Fiqh Council after Ramadan. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. That the believers, they feed the poor and the needy and the miskin. He did not differentiate between Muslim and non-Muslim. When the Prophet ﷺ said, Afshu salam wa atimu ta'am, spread the peace and give the food, he did not say give it to the Muslim. So therefore, whenever there is a miskin, a needy person, that is the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is our baloney, stupidity, that we have caused this kind of demarcation line. Muslim, non-Muslim. Yes, you pray for a Muslim. If there is somebody hungry and he's a Muslim, he has got more right upon you than a non-Muslim. But if you have taken care of the Muslim, you cannot say only the Muslim hungry will come and the non-Muslim hungry will not come. So zakat can be given for those kind of, food banks. Yes.
College fund for kids, should be handled the same as 401k?
Because this is your child. This is not zakatable, but that can be deducted from the zakat. Imagine you are putting it for your own son. So you are putting it for the long term. Whatever is for that year, you can deduct it from the zakat. Like for example, your income or your saving is 100,000, and you are putting this $10,000 during this year for your child's zakat fund, college fund. So you take 10,000, not 100,000, 10,000, which you are going to put for the child for this year, away from your total saving. Is it clear? total zakatable saving. Yes. Ji, I'll come to you, sorry. And we have to listen to Abdul Rahman too. But after all of these people, Abdul Rahman, do you have money? Do you give zakat? You give zakat? Then I will give you the opportunity. If your dad gives the zakat, then he will have the question.
So the question is about the 401. Okay. So you do your calculation, and let's say you have your mortgage loan is $100,000, and you look at your total 401 plan, and you subtract the tax. That, let's suppose you subtract the tax, the penalty, and all that, and you saw that it's this year I have to pay, let's say, $5,000. So then those $5,000 will be subtracted from 100,000, and then you will pay zakat on 95,000. That's one way of 401 that I understood from your discussion.
Now, if I properly understood your question, that you've got mortgage. Now, you cannot have the 30-year mortgage amount deducted from your 401k. You will have to deduct only that year's mortgage.
That you pay?
Yes, which you pay.
Okay.
And then, say for example, you've got, let's say, $100,000 is in your 401k. 10,000 is penalty. 10,000 are, say for example, taxes. So you own 80,000. Out of 80,000, your mortgage for that house, let's say 3,000 per month. So 36,000. So you take that 36,000. So whatever from 80,000 minus 36 is your ownership.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Jazakallah.
Yes.
So this is about 529 college plan. So thank you. So if the college fund has $100,000, kid is in the middle school, they're not going to take that money for another 4 years until they start going to college. And the idea is that every year, once they're in college, they're going to take $25,000. In 4 years, that account will become zero. So when they're in middle school, and the value of the stock is $100,000, we pay the zakat of the $100,000 savings, right?
Now, the child is not using that amount right now. That is saving. Imagine if everybody has got $100,000 saved and 2 billion Muslims, okay? So what is that? Over $200 billion, and there's no zakat on it. So therefore, only the amount which that child is using during that year is deducted. The rest of that should be zakatable. Yes. Yes, that is part of saving.
Assalamu Alaikum. My question is also about 401k clarification. So you mentioned there is an option to pay when you are able to withdraw. So question is, should you pay on the final amount or calculate for all the years it becomes zakatable?
You know, this was my personal opinion, different than everybody else. What I felt was that right now there are people who have the money that they can calculate their amount of 401k and pay the zakat right now because they do have the capacity or the cash flow. So I am also of the opinion that if they have the capacity, they should calculate whatever is after the taxes, after the penalty, their ownership, and pay the zakat on it. If somebody does not have the capacity or cash flow, the second ideal is keep on doing whatever you can do right now, 1,002. Put it in the calculation that I owed so much zakat, I paid this much. So when at the end you go, you have already discounted what you paid, and you pay on the rest of that. If a person does not even have that much amount, so and this is the only thing he has got, 401k, then there's no need to worry about all of these years. When he gets the amount, pay the zakat one time on the entire amount. Am I clear? And then every year, whatever he withdraws, he pay the zakat on it. I think he has got a follow-up question, and then I'll come to you.
I was asking, say the Nisab become on first year, he earn more. No, but he is not paying the zakat. He want to pay or will be able to pay when he actually withdraw after, say, 10 years. So I was thinking he should be calculating for every year up to 10 year. At the end of the 10 year, when he got the whole amount, he could pay the accumulated amount of that zakat, not the final amount. So I want to clarify what
Sure.
is your opinion on that.
We had very detailed discussion. Let me explain to you some scenario. For example, if a person has got $100,000 in his 401k, now 10,000 is gone for penalty, 10,000 is gone for taxes. Now, if he has to calculate every year's zakat, let's say 2,000, for the next 20,000 that is gone, so out of that 100, the poor guy will get 50,000. And now he is left with nothing else, no other job, and he has to live off that 50,000. Pretty soon he will become a poor person. Am I clear? So that's where I was of the opinion that let him get that 80,000, make the amount basically 80,000 one time on the entire amount. That money will become pure, and then every year he pays the zakat upon the leftover. This was my opinion. Everybody else's opinion was, no, he has to pay right now. If he is not paying right now, he is taking that 80,000 away from the ummah. Am I clear? So somehow, but there was no pet formula. How much are you asking him? Because he cannot afford. Am I clear? So that's where I'm giving you the option. You follow the ideal, which is the fatwa of the council, or you follow my opinion based upon your situation. Ji Bhatti Sahab.
And
Are you Shia?
the,
Are you Shia?
no, I'm not. But I'm just,
Just kidding.
I'm just.
He's my friend, so don't take me out.
So he was saying that, in that scenario of 80,000, so you don't really have the cash flow to pay, and okay, so you have the 80,000 at the end of those 10-year period, and then you start to withdraw. So any amount that you withdraw, you pay 10%, not 2.5%. Are you aware of that discussion?
That's where I'm asking, because this is the opinion of Shia scholars,
Oh, I see.
because of hummus, in addition to some of the others, that's where it is different.
I see.
Now, when at the time of President Ziaul Haq, he issued the executive order that we will start taking the zakat from each account. Half of Pakistan became Shia, because the Shia said we do not give the zakat except to the imam, and we give 5% hummus and the sada. So everybody will come, because he established zakat committee, so people will come. Can you give us the certificate that we are Shia? So that's what I joked with you. Ji.
Hello, Assalamu Alaikum. This question is from my wife. We have jewelry kept back in India from where I come. We are here in US for the last 10 years, but we are paying zakat on that. But she is asking, since she doesn't have access to the jewelry, should she still keep paying zakat on that?
Now
or not?
that jewelry is worth some money,
Yes, it is.
and that money is your ownership. Nobody else is using it. You are keeping it for yourself, so you have to pay the zakat on it. Ji.
So, if you have a house back home and somebody else is living in it, they're not paying you rent, do you have to pay zakat on that?
If somebody else is benefiting from it, he has to pay the zakat on it, not you. Same thing applies that if somebody has taken the loan from you, and that loan is not back to you yet, if you are sure that that loan is guaranteed, it will come to you, you pay the zakat on it. But if you are not sure, you don't pay the zakat until you get the loan back. And then you pay the zakat on the entire amount.
Assalamu Alaikum. So one more question on RSUs, restricted stocks. I'm thinking since you don't have those in your possessions, you don't pay. Once you get them, you pay zakat.
Now, Jazakallah khair. Barakallah fi. I think the sister's question was here, maybe. Can you read it to me, Jana? You know, sometimes, okay, yes. When it comes to the stocks, the same thing would apply. You own it.
This is the restricted stocks or the?
Or restricted stock.
So the company
You
has
do
given
not
you,
have
but
the
you don't have
complete
it.
ownership, but you still have got the right. This is something which is yours. Am I clear? Even though you do not have the full possession of that. It is restricted. So if you know the amount, you pay it, you have got the cash flow, you should do it. But if you do not have the cash flow, when you have got the control of it, sell it and then pay the zakat on the entire amount. Ji. Yes, pay. Yes.
A couple of questions here. Can we use Zakat money to maintain orphanage expenditure such as feeding, giving salaries to teacher, sponsoring an orphan? We know we cannot use the money for building the orphanage. Many of us give Zakat back home, at least majority of it. Islamically, is it okay, or we should first focus where we live? Any suggestions how we divide?
And actually, you can put the zakat on orphanage building. Why not? I mean, if the orphans are there, there's no building for them. How can you feed them? How can you? So, building orphanage is zakatable. Taking care of the salary of the people who are taking care of those orphans, feeding them, clothing them, educating them, all of that is zakatable.
And splitting the money where we live in the country here and sending money back home.
I mean, wherever you feel the need is the most. You cannot leave your own neighbor hungry and dying and send it outside. And you cannot leave your own brothers and sisters hungry and thirsty and take care of your cousins. So whosoever has got the utmost right upon you, you start the zakat with from there. So if your brother is poor, give the zakat to your brother. If your sister is less fortunate, start the zakat from there. You can't give your zakat to your father and mother because they have got the right upon you. But then you start from your closest relatives, and at the same time, you cannot say, for example, look at your own community, all of even these non-Muslims who are neighbor and they are poor. You can't see them dying and you are worrying about a community back home. So it all depends upon basically the relative conditions.
One question on the miskin, like who is eligible for zakat? Example, a person who inherited a modest house and land where they grow crops from families, have job that cannot meet the family expenses such as sending kids to school and monthly expenditure, no saving. Can we give zakat to those people? How nisab plays role here?
Yeah, I mentioned that when it comes to miskin and fakir, they are relative. A fakir of America is a rich person of Pakistan. Wallahi, even the rich people in Pakistan cannot afford that kind of infrastructure. So a fakir of America is going to be a very rich person in Pakistan. But you cannot compare the fakir of America with the fakir of Pakistan. So it all is what relevant. Ji.
Question about donating to masjid. There are poor masjids that need help, or construction of masjid in a very poor area. Is that zakat eligible? That's one. And the other question is, thank you for bringing the question about lobbying, and it's very important. And we've been trying to do this, and it just falls on deaf ears. And thank you very much for bringing it up. And Huda Clinic is the largest free clinic in Michigan, but we haven't been able to convert it into the hospital.
Allah. So see, you agree with me 5%, I made lobbying halal. So if you make 7%, I'll make Huda also halal. Astaghfirullah. Honestly, when it comes to, I just mentioned the question that masjid is the highest place when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this is the name of Allah. If you have the capacity, don't use the zakat money on that. But if there is no masjid and the community is very weak And you have already done the masjid in your own community. It's not required of you. You are helping them, and you do not have the other capacity, give the zakat for masjid. Yes. These inner cities areas, they come also not only masjid, school, their education, but they also come in the name of winning the hearts. Because these are the people who are poor, who are needy. When you support them, they say, these people are very good, this religion is very good, so this way you attract them. So yes, zakat should be used. As you know, you agree with the imam, you just keep on increasing the commission, fatwas will keep on coming. So just increase it. And I have been pushing Dr. Saab, every year I used to come here and they will start with $500,000, $250,000, 200, and I'm not getting anybody 100,000 tonight. So either there's lack of barakah because I came here, or there's something wrong with the community. So please find me somebody tonight to start with 100,000. So I feel that it is worth for me to come here. So please find some zakat people and ask them to donate $100,000. I'm sure on that. Jazakallah khair. Ji.
So if I have two houses back home, but they worth, and I'm living in rental house here, but they worth less than a house here. So do I pay for that house zakat?
You have got a house here?
No, I don't have a house.
You do
I'm
not
in
have
rental.
a house.
No.
Are you living in an apartment?
Apartment, yeah.
And you are paying basically the
rental.
And you've got two houses over there.
Exactly.
Basically, whatever you are earning from those houses,
Not earning.
Nothing.
Nothing.
No.
Yeah. There's one rental and one without rent. But whatever rental I'm giving to my family and relative.
Okay.
I'm not getting.
So you are not getting the rental. It is just basically your possession.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you calculate their price. Am I clear? The one which you are giving to your family without rent excluded, because that for that year is being used by your family. So no zakat on it. The one which is not being used and is still there, calculate the price of that house and then look at what you are paying, say for example, every month or every year for the rent. So exclude that one, and whatever is left is zakatable.
Okay.
Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, Jazakallah for the answers. This question is more, I think most of us can relate to this. If you have cousins, for example, who do have nisab amount in the form of gold, but they don't have any cash or basic, needs to run the family, can you pay zakat to them? But knowing that they have enough money, if they could sell the gold, they can themselves give zakat. Now, but you see their plight and you wanted to give the zakat. What's the,
They do have the possession or the capability that if they sell the gold, they basically do not need zakat. So you
True.
can give them khairat, sadaqat, some help, but zakat cannot be given.
given?
Yes.
Jazakallah.
He is bringing the mic to you. Yes.
You mentioned about stocks. What about the new, like cryptocurrencies? People are buying those also, right? So are they halal, and
Yes.
should we pay zakat on that?
Now, I will make it halal or haram in a later session. I will give the zakat issue. They are halal. Okay? Same thing which applies upon the stock. You look at the cryptocurrency's value today or the throughout the year value, then take the average or what is its value right now and pay the zakat on it. I know, mashallah, it went through a roller coaster. It went, mashallah, from 17,000, even though I have not invested in it, but so many people ask the question. So don't go with that 57,000 and don't go with $5. Just go whatever is average or what is right now the value and give the zakat. Jazakumullah khairan.
Yeah,
Any
of
more-
course.
Yes.
Yeah,
Now-
Assalamu Alaikum.
But last question is going to be Abdul Rahman's question. Yes, now his father.
Yeah, thank you. You mentioned if you own a land and your intention to build a house for your own self, no zakah, right? But if you build a house that your intention to sell, but the land is there, like maybe you are planning to build a house after 5 years or something, but the intention
If it
you to
is-
build a house to sell.
Yeah, if it is kept for business, there is zakat on it.
Okay.
And that zakat is, if you have got the amount to pay right now, pay it on the entire value of that land. If you do not have it, when you sell it, then pay the zakat on the entire amount of the house as well as the land.
Okay. So is it like, yeah, it's not clear for me. If you are saying if I have the money now, I pay the zakah for them. What is the value of the land?
Yes.
But I keep doing that till I build the house. Then when I sell both, basically the house and the land, I do it again, or?
Yeah. No, I mean, basically what happens is, right now, this land is, let's say, $200,000. That $200,000 is not being used for the circulation to the poor and needy. You have the capacity, pay the zakat and that $200,000 right now. If you do not have the capacity, you will build the house, you will sell the house. Let's say the house is selling $1 million. So you pay the zakat on $1 million.
Plus the land?
Because the land is going to be part
Oh,
of that
yeah, yeah.
house. Either the house is going to be rented, so you pay the zakat on the rented, or you sell it, the house will sell with the land as well as the house. So you pay the zakat on the entire amount.
And the rent will be for the house itself, right?
If you are not selling it and
Yeah.
you are just giving the rent, then that year will be only for that rent.
Okay.
But when you sell it, you will have to pay the zakat on the entire
Entire
amount.
thing. Okay, thank you.
Abdul Rahman, what is your question now?
So, what if we're done paying with the bills, you're done paying your loan and all, it like paid back money after that, you're done paying all your loans, you're done buying what you need, like food, you fed your family, and you have leftover money. Do you give it to zakat? Do you put in your life savings, or half to zakat and half to you?
Now, if I understood your question, after taking care of your candy bills, mashallah, your game bills, whatever is left with your dad, ask him to share it with me and I'll tell him how much zakat he needs. Is that fine?
Ask a question.
Inshallah. Jazakallah. After the basic necessities of life, your school bills, your soccer bills, food, clothing, housing, mortgage, whatever is left, and that income or that saving stays with him for the whole year, he has to pay 2.5 on it. Jazakumullah khair. Last question, Zaki bhai, or okay, Majid bhai?
Last question.
He is searching for the questions from internet. He want to test my knowledge, so don't ask me.
No,
difficult
this
questions.
is the one I texted you before, so I'm just going to read it. For a traditional family, the husband is the wage earner while the wife stays home and takes care of the kids and household chores. When the husband pays zakat, does the wife also share on the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or is the reward strictly for the husband who is actually paying the zakah?
If she is happy with him and wants to live with him in Jannah, then she is equal sawab holder. If she is saying that living with him in Jannah is Jahannam, no, this is not for him. I'm just making a joke. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, if she is taking care of the family responsibilities and she is sharing the responsibilities and the husband gives the zakat, she is equal sawab holder. Actually, some of them, they don't feel that if they will have to live in the same household where this husband is, that will not be Jannah. So that's what I was saying. Yes.
I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
Because you are saying you have a land or house you are planning to sell, or maybe the 401k, like after you done everything, like the retirement, you can, once you get the money, you do the zakah on the entire amount, right? What if this is just a situation here? We can imagine if the person dies, let's say, but he was not doing that yearly, then the waratha will do that, zakah, or
Absolutely. Now, they will own it
Mhm.
and they will sell it. When they sell it, once they pay the zakat on that entire amount, it will be taken care of from the deceased.
Okay.
Because the zakat is on that piece of land. Once that land is purified, the person will not be burdened with any burden.
Okay, thank you.
MashaAllah. Insurance question or property question or?
Bismillah.
Amir, why?
So, I was trying to, think how to ask, but try to relate it with salah. Like, for example, I think more or less we hear that if someone is short on the fard salah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, look at his sunnah and nafil. So sometimes needs come for the sadaqah, right? And then the question becomes, have I paid my enough zakah? Did I do my calculation right? If I'm spending more, should I spend more on zakat eligible? Or, because this is not zakat eligible, that I'm spending more, in the sadaqah. But of course, zakat is obligatory, right? But then, if someone is short on, let's say, zakat, they did not calculated it right, or they did not think about it, but they have more in terms of the sadaqah or something. So just was curious if you
could. It is just like, first of all, it depends upon the intention. If a person knows I have done enough in zakat, even if he makes mistakes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not like Uncle Sam to put you in jail. He is forgiven. Number two, this is what the hadith of Rasulullah sallam says, that if you missed fard prayer, but you have done sunnah and nawafil, on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take that nawafil and sunnah in lieu of fara'id. So that's where keep on giving charities, whatever, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will compensate you. Yes. Jazakumullahu khairan, Janab. Thank you. Barakallahu feekum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all.